Hello. Good morning.
Good morning, Your Holiness. How are you feeling, Your Holiness? How are you feeling? How is your health?
Morning always very fresh as a result of a 9 hours sleep. So morning always fresh. And my mind also is full alert. And late evening, then I go like that. So
Your
again,
Holiness, all of our guests are from North America, so it's late for them. So you will
right,
inspire them to be awake this evening for us.
right. So I think I'm here as a morning, very fresh. You American, you see now a little bit of the late afternoon. Oh, so I can easily manipulate your mind. Thank you. Once more, I met you as a long-time friend, not only friend, but for sort of Western science, and especially about brain, these things, I learned many useful things from you, from him. So, for me, as a sort of a student of ancient Indian knowledge about mind, about emotion, and how to reduce destructive emotion, and how to develop the constructive emotion increase. As a result, destructive emotion automatically reduce. So, I think without a word, you can judge my face. I think most of you, never saw Dalai Lama's angry face. Always smile, smile, smile. That is, the inner thinking, more calm, no longer much sort of, the negative emotion. I'm wondering, 1959, March 17th, when I left from Nobulinga, my summer palace, you see, the real danger of my life. So at that moment, what kind of my face? But no one have camera. So till next morning, then I feel now no danger, immediate danger. So I'm wondering at that time, some cameraman, then at the moment I'm leaving Nobulinga Summer Palace and then cross the river, and we can see the other side of the river, Chinese soldier there. So we try to keep complete quiet. But you see, horse, like that you see, sound, you see, cannot hide. So we are very much sort of anxiety. If the other side, I think maybe half a mile, something like that. So, very dangerous. So, in any way, I came India as a refugee. Anyway, I reach free country. You see, no longer totalitarian sort of system. And then emotionally also, this country, as Indian Prime Minister mentioned, land of Buddha. So I never say Buddhism is best. I never say. Religion for individual. To some people, one religion more suitable, one people, another religion more suitable. Because of the all major religious tradition, same message of love, or message of forgiveness, tolerance, and self-discipline, contentment. All major religious tradition carry these teaching same, in spite of different philosophy. So all major religious tradition, you see, have the same potential to bring happier human being, happier world. Since I came this country, I have the opportunity meeting with people from different religious faith. India itself, all major religious traditions live together. In philosophical field, differences. Even within Buddhism, you see different philosophy there. I think at the time of Buddha himself, you see different philosophical views there. But all the same message of love. So after came this country, I have much sort of opportunity meeting with people, different faith, and India is example. I always telling people, India is example. All major world religious tradition live together here. One example, among Indian, there are Muslim. Among the Muslim, Shia and Sunni. But I never heard problem between Shia and Sunni. In outside India, now Syria, Afghanistan, and these Muslim countries, the Shia, Sunni, some problem. So India, really a wonderful place, religious harmony. And then, so therefore, I reach India, that sacred place, and all major world religious traditions live together. So now last over 60 years now, Marve, over 60 years, I really settle here peacefully. And I try to my best make some contribution regarding, number one, humanity. Humanity, broadly speaking, one human community. In ancient time, you see, because of distance, and east, west, south, and north, you see something differences. Now today, they communicate due to, I think, easy communication, and then also, I think, important is global warming. Then global economy. So now we truly become one human community. So in that respect, I always say talking the well-being of 7 billion human beings as human brothers, sisters. So I'm one of them. So I try my best to say, how can I make a little contribution regarding promotion of closer relation between different human brothers, sisters. So now this country, the free country, and media, you see, I would say no restriction. And in totalitarian regime, you see, media, no freedom. So I reach this country, I really, you see, have a very good opportunity to share some of my feeling and regarding promotion of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. And then religious harmony. India, as I mentioned earlier, religious harmony there. So I'm Buddhist. So one of my commitment is promotion of religious harmony. I have many genuine friends, spiritual friends, among Muslim, among Hindu, among Christian, among Jews, and Zoroastrian, like that. So last now 60 years, I really find good opportunity, and in the meantime, sort of opportunity try to contribution from my little experience and knowledge. Then especially meeting with scientists. When I was very young, I received some toy, so something moving, like a car, and like sometimes one human being moving. So I always say, wondering how what is the mechanic sort of way to move. So whenever I received some toy, few minutes I play, then I open. How it work. So since childhood, I have some keen interest about sort of science. So now here in this country, free country, I have a very good opportunity to meet scientists, and now including Richard Davidson, Marbe. And then his profession about brain. So these days I'm expressing, everybody want happy life, healthy body. Now here, we should pay more attention. The hygiene beside hygiene of physical, we should include hygiene of emotion. So here, you see, in order to explain about how to bring inner peace, something like mental level hygiene. So now very, very useful to those scientists, you see, who have much deeper knowledge about brain, how to work, like that. So I'm very happy once more to see you and some discussions. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Holiness. Your Holiness, we met the first time in 1992. So we've known each other for 28 years. And when we first met, I was devoting a lot of my effort to the study of emotion, but it was mostly negative emotion. It was the study of depression and stress and anxiety. And you challenged me, Your Holiness, and you asked, why can't we use the same tools of science to study positive qualities like kindness and like compassion? And that was, for me, a pivotal moment, a moment of transformation where everything began to shift, and you inspired us, not just me, but many others, to begin to address these questions. And then 10 years ago, Your Holiness, you were in Madison, Wisconsin, and you inaugurated our center for the Center for Healthy Minds that is focusing. Our mission of the center, as we stated, is to cultivate well-being and relieve suffering through a scientific understanding of the mind. And notice we don't say brain, we say mind, because we believe that the brain is important, but it's not the only thing that's important. And you have helped to teach us that we need to pay attention to the mind, which is not equivalent to the brain. So that has been a real inspiration. And over the past 10 years, there have been many discoveries. And I'd like to just name 4 that have been discoveries that we've made in our center, but also discoveries that many other scientists have also worked on and confirmed. The first is that kindness and compassion are innate human qualities. They are present in virtually every human being, and we can see evidence of this in very young babies. Before they are socialized, before they are subject to the causes and conditions that may change that. But when they come into the world, they have an initial preference for kindness and for compassion.
Kindness.
Oh, yes.
The second is that we can nurture kindness in young children. This is something, Your Holiness, that you've inspired. And there is now quite a lot of scientific research, and we've done some that show that you can take children 4 and 5 years of age, and we have a curriculum that we call a kindness curriculum, and that actually improves children's altruism. It improves their likelihood of being cooperative and sharing with other children, and it improves their cognitive abilities, their thinking. They become sharper. And so this is possible. And one of the things that we've observed in this work is that, at least in the United States, beginning for a child of 4 and 5 years of age, when they enter preschool, they become progressively more selfish, unfortunately. And we can reverse that with an explicit curriculum to cultivate kindness. So that's the second thing. The third is that even very short-term training among people who've never meditated, but you've once, actually many times, you have asked us to take the practices from your tradition, turn them into a form that are universal, that any person of any faith tradition would feel comfortable practicing, and investigate them with the tools of modern science. And if we find those practices to be valuable, to disseminate them widely. And that, I feel, is my assignment from you for the remainder of my life, Your Holiness. And that is what we have been doing, and we have found that among people who've never meditated before, if you train them for just 2 weeks, where they spend 30 minutes each day training their mind, so a total of 7 hours, you can actually show changes in their brain and they become more altruistic. And finally, the fourth point I wanted to mention, Your Holiness, your mind continues to be extraordinarily sharp. And we have studied how the brain ages. And it turns out that the brain will age in everybody. We can't change that. But the rate at which the brain ages, how slowly or quickly the brain ages, varies among people. It's not the same for everyone. And for some people, their brain ages more slowly compared to their chronological age. And for other people, their brain ages more quickly compared to their chronological age. We have studied this in long-term meditators, and their brains are aging more slowly. So their brains are aging, but they're aging more slowly. And I suspect, Your Holiness, that your brain probably looks like the brain of a 60-year-old, not an 85-year-old, because of the practice that you've been doing. So those are 4 findings that are very well accepted now. And I'd like to ask Your Holiness, if you can challenge scientists like me today to study the mind to help humanity, what would you challenge us to study? What would be the most important things for us to study today to be of greatest service to humanity?
Right. Now, basically, not only we human beings, but even animals, for their survival, you see, they some kind of sense of closeness feeling, because because of the basic nature of we, including human being, some other animals, those social animals, see, their survival is entirely depend on the community. So therefore, biologically, it's just selfish, self-centered, I, is very much against that basic nature. Since we are social animal, we should use the word we, rather than I. You see, so therefore, from childhood, as soon as it was born from mother, they immediately, see, has a very close bond with mother. And the mother side also is very, very, almost consider the child is part of mother's own body. And with milk, mother's own milk. So that's the nature creation. So at a very young age, child, so they also the sense of community and close feeling each other is very, very fresh. At a young age, young children, they don't care what is the other's country or social sort of, because of the situation. rich or poor, and then like color now sometimes you say, now these days you say the color of make distinction. So young child never so long play together with smile. We consider we are same. So in my own birthplace, you see, we among many Muslim family, so we play together, no differences. So I think at a very young age, the oneness of human being, I think there, and there you see the loving kindness each other there. Then gradually, you see, join school, then make distinction, racially or religiously, and even if it's the same religion, same sort of race, but rich and poor, then make, you see, a lot of distinctions. That creates the concept of we and they. So that is the source of problem. Now in ancient time, okay, small village, small community, okay. Now today, we really need a sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. So that, I think, very sound basis there. Since childhood, we have that. Then through education, we should teach children, 7 billion human beings, we have to live together. Basically, we are same human, what's it, society, like that, human community. So now here, for example, my own experience, when I was in Tibet, we think Tibetan. We always feel Tibetan. Now come to India, meet many different people, including Westerner, African, so the thinking automatically open. So the concept of oneness of human being now come. So therefore, now in education, we should we should emphasize the oneness of 7 billion human beings. Mentally, physically, we are sort of same human being. So we need a sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. We have to live side by side. And we can easily sort of explain to people the most problem which we human being created, including war. They say we too much emphasis we and they. Now today's world, a lot of problem, essentially our own creation. It's too much emphasis, small community or small different nations. So the antidote of that, we must promote sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings through education. World peace have to start from heart, not from like United Nations or some sort of statement. No. World peace on the basis of sense of oneness of 7 billion human beings. We all same. We all want happy life. We have to live together. So the think about oneness of 7 billion human beings. So now these, from birth, all these potential there. Now education, we should now put, the education, we have to live side by side. And this nation, this continent, that continent is old thinking. Now today, entire human being or entire world, you see, we are one world. So therefore, now through education, on the basis of the children's nature, we play together. Don't care what color, what religion, what nationality. So that's very good sort of seed. Now education, now should educate. Now we have to live together, side by side. So now education, I feel key thing. Now young age, all this sense of oneness played together. Now that once join education, then the concept of differences, that develop concept of we and they, that creates problem. So now education is the key thing. So I usually used to call modern education is very much also oriented or thinking about material value, not much thinking about inner value. So modern education, materialistic oriented. Now you should include in education about, usually I call the inner health. That's in education should include the lesson about our emotion, how to bring the more positive emotion, which brings inner peace, inner strength, and inner tranquility. The negative emotion, such as fear, anger, jealousy, now these are destroyer of inner peace. So these simply children should inform in order to be happy human being. Try to negative, destructive emotion reduce. The proper way of reduce is try to understand the positive emotion. Now, for example, anger, how to reduce anger, jealousy, more compassion, more sense of concern of others' well-being. That automatically reduce jealousy. As a result, the fear automatically reduce. The other, your neighbor, consider part of your community. My life depends on them. I must show also the compassionate attitude, sense of oneness of community. So these, in education, now I usually call modern education, very much oriented about material value. Now should include in education, in class, about the system of our emotion, as how to further sort of maintain or further develop sense of closeness feeling. Children, very good. Then education now should emphasize these things. So education is key thing. Now in education, to educate people without touching religion. Religion is private business. Now here important is scientific sort of finding. Scientifically, you see, more compassionate mind, automatically less fear. That brings peace of mind. That very good for health. So we should sort of take a lesson from scientific finding about inner peace. Religion is private, so science is universal. Even those who see people who are totally against religion, they also have to accept the scientific finding. So in education field, we should, I think, pay more attention about how to develop inner peace. For that, is some sort of explanation, deeper explanation about mind, and with that, now brain. You already sort of notice the people who spent, you see, many years meditation, single point mind. You see, their brain, something little differences, less anger. So therefore, in order to explain about mind through your, also the brain specialist sort of experience and your finding. So now, in now 7 billion human beings, I think according the global warming, so some expert, they say the next few decades, the global warming reach such a level, then most of the river dry. So now, from another sort of aspect, so this very world now ending, reaching, ending. So the remaining maybe 1 century, 2 centuries, I think we should live happily. No longer use, you see, too much emphasis, we and they and fight. No longer. It's foolish, short-sighted. The very world now coming to end. So remaining few centuries, logically, we have to live happily, helping each other and protect ecology.
Your Holiness, I wanted to just mention one finding that relates to something you were mentioning. There's very good evidence to show that before the age of about 2 or 3 years, children make no distinction based on skin color.
Right.
Absolutely none. So they're born with being completely neutral with respect to that. And that is just something that we learn in certain cultures. And it shows that our nature is not to make those distinctions based on skin color. So I wanted to ask you, Your Holiness, you talked about hygiene for emotion, and the analogy was physical hygiene. We all take care of ourselves, and one of the things I frequently remind people is that when human beings first evolved on this planet, none of us were brushing our teeth. But today, virtually every human being on the planet, all 7 billion, brush their teeth. We've learned to do this because we recognize it's good for our physical hygiene. But many people recognize that doing something for their mind is actually good for their emotional hygiene, yet they still don't do it.
Yes.
And so I wonder if you can give us some advice and your wisdom, Your Holiness, about strategies that we can implement in our daily lives that can be disseminated widely to help people take seriously this issue of hygiene for emotions. How can we have more people adopting this as part of their daily life?
Now, basically, the existing modern education very much oriented about material value. Never pay much attention about inner world. So now here, just to simply tell to people you should pay more attention about the inner world is not necessarily convincing. Now, question of health, physical health, everybody take care. The physical health very much related with mental health. So through that way, about emotion, how to develop emotion, how to, let's say, make distinction, positive emotion, destructive emotion, then how to reduce destructive emotion. These, not as a something, the religious matter, no, simply education and academic subject. So now, modern education, I think now time come, I think now, late 20th century, right? 20th century, I think with our knowledge, now education now should include educate about mental health, and world peace also ultimately depend on our warm-heartedness. Now these bring the subject of how to keep peace of mind and how to develop anger, hatred, these destroyer of peace of mind, how to develop.
How to reduce them.
How to reduce. So now existing education now should include, as I mentioned earlier, the healthy mind, healthy body, the hygiene of physical, hygiene of emotion. This is so true. You also comment, you see, taking care of teeth. So one time, Mao Zedong, you see, told us the not necessary sort of say the brush, the tigers, the teeth very clean. They have no brush. So in any way now, what lacking today's world is all our ability look outside and happiness from outside, money, power, name, not sort of clear understanding about ultimate source of happiness is within ourselves, very much related with emotion. So through that way, how to reduce among the emotion, destroyer of inner peace, inner happiness, and how to tranquilizer or some sort of alcohol, these are temporary. The long run, peace of mind is the ultimate sort of antidote of these negative emotions. So that should include in education, with help of scientific sort of also the knowledge or research. So then everybody, everywhere, world peace, world peace. We should now, through education, we should develop full conviction. World peace ultimately depends on heart, not weapon, like that. So our discussion, this meeting, as a little sort of contribution in education, we should include education about our inner health, or inner mind, inner peace.
Thank you, Your Holiness. During this time of the pandemic, in addition to the challenge of the pandemic itself, there is a global recognition of racial injustice. And also, it is a time when climate change is also very, very prominent in our awareness, in part because of what has occurred temporarily as a consequence of shutting the economies down in China and the US, but also we see in California the extraordinary wildfires which are happening. And so this is a very challenging time. And I wonder if you can offer some words of counsel to us about how we can bring both compassion and also the direct experience of interconnectedness, which I think we all have the intuition will be very helpful in changing people's attitude toward climate change and toward the recognition that we're not separate from the environment around us. And how can we bring these qualities to bear on solving these very difficult problems?
That's really a difficult situation. Now, according to ancient Indian literature, of course, the whole galaxies, it's the billions of years, the galaxies start, then remain a certain period, then gradually disappear. The way disappearance, firstly, violence, then second, illness, then third, famine, mugi, famine. Then the human population reduce. So seems now period of violence now already happened in previous century, and they passed a lot of violence, and the previous century, First World War, Second World War, and the constant threat of nuclear war, like that. Now, without big war, but still small sort of violence now here and there. So now result, now these illness also, you say, happen. I don't know how much sort of connection, peace of mind and these illness, I don't know. As a sort of brain specialist, do you have some idea? Is in this illness some connection with brain?
Well, we know, Your Holiness, that it actually in some cases does have effects on the brain. We also know that there is a second pandemic which is going to follow the direct pandemic caused by the virus itself, which is a mental health pandemic. In fact, the findings from 2003 with the SARS, the severe respiratory syndrome, which was a variant of a coronavirus that happened in 2003 in a much less extended part of the globe. But we know from the SARS epidemic that there was a 30% increase in suicide rate among people who are 65 years and older. There was also more than 50% of the patients that recovered from SARS actually remained significantly anxious for many years after they recovered physically. And so there is a challenge of a different sort from the COVID virus that will be a mental health challenge. And so whether the brain is involved in, it certainly is involved in these indirect ways. And so we have really a kind of triple threat today. We have the virus and the mental health challenges associated with it.
Sorry.
And then we have the racial injustice.
I'm wondering, the mental attitude or more anxiety may causing some of these illness. And peace of mind, self-confidence, do you think so such person, you see, less danger, you see, get these because of illness? I notice in India, sometimes in India, one unfortunate thing is the caste system. So lower caste system, lower caste people, economically, you see, more difficult. So these people might get easier to get these sort of illness. So that shows mental attitude, you see, full courage and self-confidence, and always, you see, there's a happy mental state. You see, and worry, demoralize, and get more easier to get this illness. Do you see any differences, people who have sort of self-confidence and inner peace and less danger, this illness, and more anxiety, more sort of in a mental state, more sort of anxiety, more fear, more easier to get this illness? Do you see any differences?
I would say, Your Holiness, that for the coronavirus, we do not know at this point in time whether those differences make a difference in terms of susceptibility or severity of illness. We do know that for the common cold, which actually is a form of coronavirus, not nearly as severe, there are those differences. That is, people who have a more anxious personality, who are more triggered by anger and by fear, are indeed more susceptible to the common cold. Whether that applies to this virus, we don't know. But it's certainly a possibility. So we just don't know at this point in time. We do know that for influenza, if you give a person a vaccine for influenza, flu shot, there are big differences among people in how effective the vaccine is. And it turns out that the vaccine is more effective for people who in general are more warm-hearted, less anxious, less angry. They actually have more antibody titers, which is a measure of how effective the vaccine actually is. So there are some very interesting possibilities and connections.
Right, right. 걔도 여러 생 뽑아버렸지,
나
스동안.
지단 단단 나서 딜라믹스 하고 있는 지단인데 개화 연구됐습니다.
Right.
처음 받았는데.
Yes.
So, Your Holiness, I know our time is soon coming to a close, but I wanted to ask you, given all of the difficulties and challenges that humanity is facing today, what are the sources of optimism that you can share with us to guide us during this very turbulent time?
I don't know. Here, myself is a concerned people, including police. Now I more or less completely isolate because of this illness. So I have more time, meditate or study. So meantime, I have more anxious go outside and meet people and talk. Although through television, we can communicate, but the meeting with people, person to person, I also feel something fresh, like that. People also, not only hearing Dalai Lama's voice, but seeing the person. So that I'm a little bit sort of anxious. After a few months, this illness then reduce. Then I can go my sort of temple and different places like that. So otherwise, now I have the more sort of restful day, like that. And then my main meditation, altruism. One of my daily prayer is, so long space remain, so long sentient being remain, I will remain in order to serve. So that really brings inner strength. Not only a question of 1 life or 10 life, 100 life, but so long space remain, so long sentient beings remain, I will remain in order to serve. That's one prayer. The Shantadeva's book. So now, because 80.
85.
85 or 86-year-old, but my mind seems to see still quite young. When I saw picture, many of my friends now gone, so then I felt, now I also now old. Otherwise, my mental state is still fresh and quite young. That I feel connected with mental attitude. And also, purpose of our life. I can serve people, I can help other people. Then, you get the feeling of, I must live, like that. Okay. And including you, my scientist friend, also need my knowledge.
We do.
Like that.
Well, that was very inspiring, Your Holiness. One of the things that also is so inspiring is that you are continuing for the remainder of your life to serve. And this has been such a great example. And I wonder if we can end by maybe if you can reflect on any advice you have for our center. We have been devoting ourselves to cultivating well-being and relieving suffering. But there are many choices that we need to make about how best to serve. And if there is, what might you envision over the next 10 years that science can do to be helpful in this period of our humanity?
I already sort of mentioned the scientific sort of knowledge about inner peace, about our mind, much easier to join education field. Right? So education, as I always mention, the education more materialistic sort of attitude or oriented, that's now not sufficient. Now, modern time, we should have more more knowledge through education about our inner peace, inner health. So in that respect, scientists, especially brain specialists, was very, very helpful. I think in till late 20th century, people not much pay attention about our mind or emotion. Now, more and more people, not as a religious matter, but academic subject and health subject, now more and more people now showing. So now it is our common responsibility, you see, to promote among the humanity, 7 billion human beings, more knowledge, through knowledge, more attention about our inner peace. So then the society, through education, is more knowledge about our inner peace, these things, then the generation who have more deeper sort of involvement about inner peace, inner mind, then the scientists or religious leaders or economists or politicians come from that kind of society, then maybe a little sort of different. Up to now, just to say material value, only oriented about that. So now today, we are facing a lot of problem, actually our own creation. So that ultimately is related with our mind. Our mind, you see, the knowledge, not only external thing, but also internal whole system of our emotion. That I think very important now, remaining perhaps 1 century or 2 centuries, you see, through education, more knowledge how to keep inner peace, then I think world automatically become more peaceful, more happier. I think I will ask you, anyone, you see, when shopping, big sort of say,
malls,
big shops, if you ask anyone who can, where I can buy peace of mind, no one. Meantime, everyone want peace of mind, but no other way to bring peace of mind with money or with force, nothing. So only through training our mind. So now that, I think remaining 100 years or 200 years, I'm hoping with helping scientists, now people paying more attention about our inner peace to tackle our destructive emotion. Now here, I always see expressing the quantum physics. The quantum physicists, you see, they make distinction, appearance and reality. Appearance, things independently exist from objectively. So most of the destructive emotion based on that. Then other hand is a compassion or these also the I think right emotion, not based on these appearances, but thinking deeper level. So that some ancient Indian Indian text which mention about psychology, they also, you see, say same way, most of the destructive emotion based on appearances. Now some quantum physicists, you see, when they develop the deeper sort of understanding about quantum physics, then they are sort of grasping. Some positive appears, some negative appears, very much grasping, that much reduce, much less. So this Indian ancient psychology also is mentioned. So that's, I think, a hopeful sign. All destructive emotion based on appearances. So appearance analyze not like the deeper reality. So thinking more deeper reality, everything combination of particle. A mind also, you see, mind momentarily is changing. No independent mind. So through that way, where is I? No independent I. All, you see, conceptual way. 남도 없으셔서.
Designated.
So all these negative emotion is based on grasping something independently exists there, good or bad. So once, you see, we realize nothing as appears at deeper level, something different. Some quantum physicists, they say, deeper level, mental projection. So through education, although some of these ideas come from religious texts, but these we can use as a sort of, how to bring healthy mind, less destructive emotion. That, according Indian sort of tradition, secular, nothing to do with religion, just secular. So I think remaining few decades, I think we should try to contribution in education field about these things. Then that brings inner peace. So then global warming, I also want one point to share with you. The people usually call Tibet as a roof of the world. So, according to some, some scientists about global warming, then they say within few decades, the most of the river which come from Tibet now gradually reduce. we can notice when we're flying over Afghanistan, there are many lakes now become very small, and many lakes, many rivers now something like little stream like that. So eventually Tibet also become like that. So then Tibet most sort of what's the big rivers, their ultimate source Tibet. So once the Tibet become like desert, then whole Asia is then really facing the drinking water, including China, the Yangtze River in China, and Brahmaputra in India, and then Mekong River in Southeast Asia, like that, and one river in Pakistan side. So now, from the viewpoint of people in this area, should pay more attention about Tibet ecology. So since political matter, I retired already 2010. 2011, I totally retired. But ecology of Tibet and culture, Tibetan knowledge, originally come from India. So ancient Indian the philosophical knowledge is we kept over 1,000 years. So these I fully committed to preserve, as well as preserve the ecology in Tibet. So you, my friend, occasionally you also, you see, I think recently Chinese Prime Minister visited Tibet. As a result, you see, he mentioned importance of ecology, Tibet, like that. And some time back, you see, Chinese government, you see, give order, so those area forestation, something important for ecology, then Chinese government order some kind of stop deforestation, like that. So now, this is not only just 6-7 million Tibetan people's concern, but whole Asia is something important. So ecology, then Tibetan culture. Tibetan culture, since 8th century, the Nalendra master, one of the top master of Nalendra, Chandra Rishita, he invited to Tibet. Now he advised, since you have your own language, that language develop, while I said a copy from Indian Devanagari, the system, alphabet, not like Chinese. So now, when Tibetan language, you see, develop, they all, while translation, Buddhist text from India, the new word develop. So now today, among the Pali language and Sanskrit language, Tibetan language is the most closest to Sanskrit language. So Tibetan language, as far as sort of Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist study is concerned, Tibetan language is very important. So I have sort of the moral responsibility to preserve Tibetan language, not just a national viewpoint, but for knowledge about ancient Indian knowledge. We have 300 volumes, 100 volume Buddha's own word, and then more than 200 volumes, all translation from Indian Sanskrit language, or Pali language. So therefore, Tibetan language for study, these sort of translation, these books, altogether 300 volumes, Tibetan language is very important. So one of my commitment is try to preserve this Tibetan language. Very good. So when we describing about psychology, about philosophy, then English language is hopeless. Like I think very detailed sort of field of science, Tibetan language is not yet developed. So similarly, in these difficult philosophy, in ancient Indian philosophy, Tibetan language, I think, highly developed. So when I explain about these difficult philosophy and logical subject, Tibetan language is more precisely expressed. No other language. A Pali language, the certain portion, Pali language, very good, but the Nalanda tradition, so including logic, the Sanskrit language is the key language. Now Tibetan language, best language combined with science language, right? Mari, Sanskrit language. So I'm student of Tibetan, the tradition. So those difficult subjects which exist in Sanskrit language in India, you see, we have some familiar, so quite useful. Pali language, even you see, sometimes I jokingly telling some Thai Buddhist or Burmese Buddhist or Sri Lanka Buddhist, since many of them I know as become very, very close friend. So sometimes I jokingly telling them, their tradition, since no logic, just Buddha's own word, because this is so what Buddha stated, no further question. So Sanskrit, even Buddha's own word, we raise question, why Buddha said that? Then further investigation. If you find some contradiction, Buddha's own word, we have right to reject. That's Nalanda tradition. So we extensively use logic. The Pali tradition not much use logic. So therefore, I sort of jokingly is telling those Buddhist from Buddhist country where not much sort of study about logic, then I express them, they have no teeth. If some hard subject come, that those who say Buddhist study logic, then we have this strong teeth. So therefore, the logical approach, very important. Now, Tibetan tradition come from Nalanda tradition, very much logical approach. So, including Buddha's own word, we raise question, why? So now we automatically come closer feeling with scientists, why? And then explanation.
Yes, and I was just going to say, Your Holiness, it is one of the reasons why I think scientists have been so interested in continuing a dialogue with you, because of the emphasis on logic and reason, and why the Nalanda tradition is so important to us as scientists. So our time is coming to a close, and I wanted to express my deepest appreciation and gratitude, Your Holiness, May you continue to be safe and healthy. And we all very much look forward to the time when we can travel again and come to Dharamsala to see you. So
Thank you.
until then, I'm sure we'll meet again over the internet, but we look forward to being with you in person.
Thank you. Now this illness, kasa koi mingdi.
Coronavirus.
Oh, you see this present sort of. So some the restrictions. After I think a few months, then I can easily go. So we can meet and group people, and we can discuss continuously. My age, now as I mentioned earlier, now 86, right? 86. I'm quite sure. Another 10 years, 96. Then another 10 years, 106, 105, like that. So my brain is still very fresh, very young. So physical also quite good. So we can discuss these things continuously in order to serving humanity. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Your Holiness.
Thank you. Any questions? Ka. Any question? No. Okay.
Thank you, Your Holiness.
See you again. Thank you.